Hi everybody, I'm Nick Farrier here with Dwight Spencer and Kenny Conrad, bringing you the sights and sounds of Media Day for Hofstra Pride's men's and women's basketball teams. Gentlemen, basketball right around the corner. Only in a couple of weeks we start opening day. It's a great chance today to get to know the coaches and some of the stars for Hofstra Pride men's and women's basketball. So first, Dwight, we'll start with you. How excited are you for a day like this?
Well, Nick, I'm very excited. I think this season is going to be something that's very promising for both Hofstra men's, women's, and men's basketball teams. Again, as you said, we get the opportunity to actually get to know, the team a little bit better, get to know the coaches, and I think that this will set the tone heading into the season.
And like you said, I'm very excited to see what both of these teams can bring to the table this season. It's a big day to be able to meet some of these new faces for each of these teams who both figure to have pretty promising and exciting seasons coming up with some new faces, some old faces. It's an exciting time to be here, and it's going to be an exciting season of Hofstra basketball.
And we have a full slate of guests coming on for the show. We're going to end it around 1:30 today, but we'll hear from some of the big stars of Hofstra Pride men's and women's basketball teams. Of course, at the podium in just a couple minutes, we'll have Jeff Hathaway, Hofstra Pride Athletic Director, and of course Joe Mihalik and Krista Kilburn-Stavesky, the two head coaches of Hofstra Pride men's and women's basketball. Justin Wright Foreman will come on at around the 12:20 mark, and then followed by Ashane Durant, Rokas Gustis, and Eli Pemberton. Aliana Leone, and one of these new players that you were talking about, Kenny, Boogie Brzezowski. Joe Mihalik will then follow. Krista Kilburn-Stavesky will go after him, and then we will conclude today's broadcast. But Dwight, before Jeff Hathaway comes up to the podium, Hofstra men's basketball ranked 4th in preseason CAA, women's 7th. Do you feel that's indicative of what both teams are expected to be this season?
I think that it is indicative, very much so, of the men's teams, not so much of the women's team. I think this women's team has a lot of talent. I think that they're being very underestimated early on because, the talent that we see within Ashane Durant and Aliana Leone, I think they're going to bring a lot of that star power, and I think it's going to really throw teams off balance.
Well, I think it's very tough when you look at these preseason rankings because, again, we haven't seen all these players play together. We don't know who's developed into a better player, in the offseason and how the team is going to gel. So I don't put too much weight on those preseason rankings, but especially for the men's team, I think it's very promising to be ranked at number 4 like that. I think it shows that they have the ability to move up. And I think there's a lot of unknowns with this women's basketball team. I think they have the potential to really move up, and I think that might be a bit low for them.
I mean, we're at CAA Media Day happened just a couple weeks ago, and people were talking about Hofstra women's basketball being a very young team and Hofstra men's having the star power. Young star power it is, but having the star power. Is that where we're looking for now, where we're looking for the competitive nature of the women's basketball team and expecting the men's team to actually win pretty big? And we'll answer those questions in just a little bit as Jeff Hathaway is about to make his way to the podium. But Dwight, very quickly, what do you think about that?
I think that this season is going to be a test for the women's team, and I think that the men's team just have to remain consistent and remain healthy. Healthy and consistency is a big part of the season for both.
And obviously, Nick, you mentioned Justin Wright Foreman. He's a huge component of this men's basketball team. He is basically their star, their leading scorer when they went to that trip in Canada back in the offseason. So I think that it's going to be really important to see what he can bring to the table and who's going to step up and help him out, because I think they have a lot of big options that can help this team out.
And, of course, one of those other players for the women's team, Ashane Durant, coming back, a CAA first-teamer. And it looks like we will have Stephen Gorchov come to the podium right now to speak. So we'll lower our mics, and we'll get this thing started.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Gorchov, the Associate Director of Athletics for Communications here at Hofstra University. And it's my honor to welcome you to the 2017-2018 Hofstra Basketball Media Day. We can't thank everyone enough for joining us here in the beautiful Hofstra Basketball Practice Facility. Thanks to all the members of the media who are here today and the members of the Hofstra community watching online on Pride Productions. Special thank you to our friends at WRHU for being here today to broadcast this special event. Today we will open with comments from Hofstra Vice President and Director of Athletics Jeff Hathaway, Head Men's Basketball Coach Joe Mihalik, and Head Women's Basketball Coach Krista Kilburn-Stavesky. Following the speaking portion, both head coaches and student athletes from each team will be available for members of the media. Feel free to grab me or a member of the Hofstra Athletic Communications staff if you need anything. Amanda, Jim, and Len are all here as well. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Hofstra Vice President and Director of Athletics, Jeff Hathaway, for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Stephen, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to everyone that's here for the 2017-18 Hofstra Basketball Media Day. As Stephen said, we're very excited to have this event on an annual basis in this practice facility, which has been a game changer for us, I believe, both in recruiting and the development of our basketball student athletes. It's safe to say we're very excited about the upcoming basketball seasons. Our focus is solely on one thing: winning CAA championships and advancing to the NCAA tournament. That's the goal that I have, that's the goal our coaches have, and I know each and every one of our basketball student athletes share. The most important thing that the people that are here today and the people that are watching via Pride Productions is to know that we need your support on game night. We're looking to get our fans out each and every night, be part of the excitement of Hofstra basketball, and come have fun watching our outstanding men and women that represent Hofstra on the basketball court. Special shout out for a very big game this year that we're very excited to host, and that is playing Villanova at the Nassau Coliseum on December 22nd. It's a game that we've been discussing with Villanova for a number of years, and thrilled that we could play them here and have Jay Wright come back and be recognized as someone who is a significant contributor to the success of basketball at Hofstra University. He and Joe share a very strong relationship, and I think it's going to be a very special night for Villanova, for Hofstra, for all of our former men's basketball student athletes, and I think most importantly for our current men's basketball athletes. So we look forward to seeing a great crowd at the Coliseum. Thank you all for being here. Cheer loud for the Pride, and I'll turn it back over to Stephen.
Thank you, Jeff. Now I'd like to introduce, now in his 5th year at the helm of our men's basketball program, Joe Mahalan.
As Jeff said, thanks for being here. It's exciting times. It's, as we were speaking with one member of the media earlier, he was saying it just seems to get going earlier and earlier every year, and I guess that's the case. But for me, that's all right. For our players, it's all right because we're really excited to get going. Jeff mentioned a couple things. He mentioned the schedule. I'm going to talk about the players last and our expectations last. But the schedule is an exciting one. I mean, we do some really neat things. Jeff mentioned the Villanova game. That's going to be great. And he mentioned that Jay Wright and I share a long relationship. We do. We've been friends forever. I kind of hope he shares one of his suits with me for that game so I could maybe try to look at least half as good as he looks, but that's probably not going to happen. We're in the Charleston Classic, which is an ESPN event and is going to be broadcast nationally all throughout the country. So we open up with Dayton, Clemson's in the tournament, Temple's in the tournament, ODU, Auburn. So it's going to be a really strong field and a great challenge and a great opportunity for our guys to see if we can't do something special down there. In addition to that, we've got an exciting home game, a slew of home games to be played here right across the way here. So, we're excited to host some of them, and it starts with Army on November 10th, and that's Military Appreciation Night. So, should be a great night, and hope to see, as Jeff said, hope to see a lot of people there. Our guys have worked extremely hard. I couldn't be more proud of how hard they work. A couple of them are here today. The rest of our guys are probably studying because they are, they love to be in that study hall. But I see Rokas here, and then I know Justin Wright Foreman is here. And Rokas, you only have to say one word. He's like Pele or like Cher. You only have to say the first name. Everybody knows who Rokas is. But those guys that work so hard along with the others, you can't get them out of the gym, and it shows. It shows on the floor because they've done some great things. We have, when I explain our team, I put it this way. I'll be pretty blunt right here. We feel really good about 3 or 4 positions. Rock is, he has the right nickname because he's like a rock. He's like bedrock for us. He's the pillar of strength in there, and he's somebody you can build your team around. So that position we feel really strong about. We feel really good about it. And Justin Wright Forman's made himself into a first-team all-conference candidate. He can score the basketball like no other. And, so we feel good about that. Elijah Pemberton on the other wing is another position we think is pretty solid. DeJour Bowie and Kenny Wormley will probably share that point guard position, and they've got some miles on their tires, and they've got some experience, and I think they're going to do a pretty formidable job at the point. It's that last position that's probably going to make or break us, and we're excited about the two guys that are going to probably share that position. Joel Angus is a graduate student, graduated from Southeast Missouri State last year, and he, along with Matija Radovich, we were lucky enough to play some exhibition games in August, and the two of them had some good outings up there. So, those two guys, along with Hunter Sabady coming off the bench, and some of the other guys, I think I think we've got a chance to be a solid team, and as Jeff said, a team that by the end of the year, maybe we can compete and win that CAA championship, and that is the goal. So, thanks everybody for being here. We are very excited about the season. We got to stay healthy. I just said to somebody, since October 10th, we've had 10 injuries, and it's not, knock on wood, none of them have been, incredibly significant, but, it's a crapshoot to see who's going to practice every day, because we've never had 10 guys out there. So, Mike Farrelly and Speedy Claxton are in really good shape because they've been jumping in there and playing some. So, but thank you all for being here. Exciting times, exciting time of the year, and here's hoping that we can, by the end of the year, be a team that can be good enough to win this tournament. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Now it's my pleasure to introduce now our 12th year here, and some good experience last night traveling coach, planes, trains, and automobiles. Coach, now in her 12th year, Krista Kilburn-Stavesky.
He stole my beginning. Yes, it was a Steve Martin and journey to get here, but I'm excited to be here and miss the crew the last couple days. Obviously, certainly you have to thank Jeff, everybody here in the administration and staff to come out here. I don't think we forced you, but to talk a little bit. We don't get a chance to talk about our team. I can be long-winded, but I don't get an opportunity a lot to get in front to talk about how special my team is. So I'm going to make sure I at least hit that without putting you to sleep. But certainly just thanking Jeff, thanking everybody, and getting ready to roll. Obviously, it's talking about where we're moving forward. Obviously, we graduated a good bit of seniors, and we had a nice rebuilding. You want to say it? It was a tough year. So now we move into what we have right now, and it's been an exciting time with this group. They are giving us pretty much all they got every day. We can totally talk about effort. It's been at its highest on the 16th practice that we're at right now. But it's been led by some young ladies that have given us a lot of experience that gained a lot last year. So we have the 3 seniors, first team All-CAA, Ashane Durant, who's sitting right out here. Aliana Leon, who was actually CAA honorable mention, which was fantastic. Finally, people are recognizing her talents. And then Olivia Askin, I think, is not here right now. These 3, Olivia and Aliana especially, had an opportunity to gain a lot of experience last year. We kind of went into the season with 1 senior and 1 junior out of NA that had the most playing time last year. So now these guys had just things that coach can't teach, just tons of game experience. So Ajane, we call her Nay, obviously, comes in. She had 16 points and 10 boards last year. She led the NCAA offensive rebounds for several weeks and ended up being top 5 in rebounds nationally. So just can't say enough about what she has been for this program. And I think the best part that I talk about for Nay was last year is struggling and tough at times it was. That's what she gained because, she had obviously 2 great freshman, sophomore year. She had tons of help and very deep with Darius and Angie and several other players that were around that time and won about 48-plus games during that and at least 8 in the WNIT, and then had to kind of hold the fort down last year. So that type of experience for her, along with Aliana and Liv, is what's going to carry us a lot this season. Because again, you can tell somebody all they want about what's going to lie ahead, but there's one thing everybody in this room that sees Nay play, if she decides to take over a game, there's nobody stopping. I've seen her do it in practice. The last few practices I was here, when she decides to take over, it's almost like moving in slow motion. So excited about her, excited about Aliana, what she can bring, and her crazy shots and her positive attitude every second, and somehow she finds a way to put that ball in. So that's a little bit about what our foundation is for the start of the season. We have a bunch of sophomores now, and the best part about those guys is they're sophomores now. They had that 1 year of that freshman out of their belt here, and then now we're really counting on what they can do for us. Most of you guys know that obviously Marianne, Callan, and Anna gave us a lot of really good minutes last year. I think their game knowledge, how well they adjusted faster, gave them more time on the floor. So really excited, obviously, with them. And then Alexis Davis, I think probably right now has had one of the best off seasons to try to separate herself. We have Alexis P. Right now that are available here till December the 21st till Boogs comes along. You guys might know Lauren Borowski, who everybody calls her Boogs, from the Long Island area. So we have a really nice ability to have a lot of point guards that can play multiple positions on the floor. So we can't be more excited about having Boogs. Most of you guys might know that I recruited Boogs since she was in the 7th grade. So she's the local, again, Long Island product, and so it was nice to have her back. She transferred back here from Michigan. So, but everyone seems to really be trying to, again, what I said, continue to work every day, work extremely hard. Like I said about Alexis, beginning to separate, P, understanding tempo. We have Sandra Carson, who most of you guys know has got the most athletic, runs like a gazelle. She has got a good goal about being a defensive stopper. So all these pieces of what we're really, really excited about bringing to the table for this season. And that's what's going to be fun for everybody to watch. I think the exciting brand and how well we, again, play with so much enthusiasm. So kind of went that way with the players. The schedule is a little more challenging than it was last year. And I think that's good because one of the main focus of our season right now is really how we finish. Last year at one point we were 7-3. And I think the non-conference slate is going to make us more prepared than it was last season. We have a home game here on the 12th against UMBC. We go out to UNLV with the likes of obviously UNLV and then Minnesota and Wake. And then we play, several different tough teams throughout the rest, Siena and Sacred Heart. And then we come back here on our first conference game on the 29th of December to face off with JMU. So it's going to be challenging, but very exciting, though. And again, so I just wanted to kind of lead off on that piece of that, the experience of our seniors, and then now the newcomers that are going to be helping us. One I wanted to mention was Sika Kuzik, who came from Salt Lake Community. I think for everybody on the team right now, she's just filling such a versatile role for us because she's played from 1 to 5 for us at any point in time in practice. And she's done that with a great disposition and a smile on her face. So, I think that, that surprise is going to be for a lot of people that don't know some of the additions that we have. So the sophomores and newcomers, and then led by our 3 senior focus of our foundation. So anyway, again, the coaching staff is here. So Coach Kahn and Denise, Darius Falk is our new director of operations. And, Mike Gibson, you can never count on him. I mean, he's, just went off and got married and couldn't be here today. So we had a wonderful celebration for Mike's wedding this past Saturday night. It was just beautiful. It just went off. Talk about a dream wedding because the weather and everything was outstanding. So he'll be back tomorrow. So just can't obviously do anything without everybody helping us in my staff. I mean, I can turn the program over and just know that we're always on the same page. I think that's probably the beauty. I know the players might see that, but I don't know if they fully understand what type of people they have as their assistants with them. Not only as them as coaches, but as people and what they care about for these young ladies and developing them. So kudos to them hanging out with me for a little bit longer. Because our goal, like everybody's goal, I'm not going to sit up here and profess, we want to be competitive. We started off okay last year, and we didn't finish the way we wanted. So what does it all matter? And these young ladies are hearing this every day, and they need to really let this sink in today. It's what you can do as you're learning through the conference, handling some of the setbacks that are going to occur, and then get your mind right when it comes to the tournament, to the CAH season and the tournament. And if you're playing the best basketball there, you're putting yourself in a position to be competitive, and that is what our goal needs to be. So thanks again for the time from everybody. I appreciate it, and let's go Pride, okay? And one last comment, too. Enjoy the day in the Pride, too. There's a lot of great tweets going on out there. Just tweet everything that's going on. It's an exciting part for today on all occasions. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff, Joe, and Krista.
And again, thank you to the head coaches of Hofstra Pride men's and women's basketball teams. Of course, a fun day, and of course, Hofstra Basketball Media Day has just gotten underway. We have several different coaches that we're going to be hearing from and several different players that we'll be hearing from in the near future. But now it's a great time to bring on some of the players that are now going to be playing for this Hofstra Pride men's and women's basketball team. And one of them, of course, CAA first-teamer, preseason first-teamer, Justin Wright-Foreman. Justin, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start this off right away. CAA preseason first-teamer. What does it feel like?
It feels great. It's an honor to be, mentioned by the conference as being one of the, the best players in the conference, being picked number one. But, more motivation, added motivation for me, especially for my team to keep getting better.
And Justin, you've had a busy offseason, your team playing games in Canada and against Fairfield. How does that help your team prepare for the season?
While we were there, we just developed chemistry, hanging around each other every day, especially getting to know each other on the court, knowing where certain people like the ball in certain spots. It was just a great feeling of being around the team. It was a great experience, especially being in Canada.
You averaged 23 points in that trip, 23 points a game in that trip to Canada, and also you had a great game over at Fairfield. Is this a sign for bigger things coming for you, this campaign?
Absolutely. It's my junior year, so I expect it to be really good, and so does everybody else. I hold myself to a higher standard, so I expect this year to be better than last year. So.
Your team right now ranked 4th in the preseason polls. What do you think of that? Is that too low for your team, you as a star player? What do you think?
I think we're where we should be. We should be number one, but, it's time to shock people.
Okay. Kenny, you have a...
Yeah, what are some games you're super excited for on the schedule? Obviously, the Villanova games may be one you highlighted. What are some interesting conference matchups you think that might come up this season?
Really, I'm only taking one game at a time, but the Villanova game I'm very excited for because, going against old coach I used to coach, Jay Wright, he's a legend, and it's incredible to play in front of somebody like that. We have some great games. I'm excited to play Army because, it's the first game of the season. Everybody's excited to play the first game of the season. And, once conference starts to come around and stuff like that, I'm going to be excited for every game because then it's just, it's time to really play for something.
Talk about the team chemistry. How has that kind of developed over the off season leading into this, to your first game of the season?
Everything's been going great right now. The chemistry is amazing. Everybody hangs out with each other off the court. Everybody's great friends. On the court, the chemistry builds even when you're competing. So every day in practice has been a competition with everybody. Everybody's fighting really hard for minutes and spots and stuff like that. So it's been really great.
Now entering your junior year, you have to become more of a leader now, as expected, now that you're an upperclassman. How have you taken into that role? Do you find that challenging in some occasions where now you have to be not only the number one scorer but also a leader on this team? What do you feel now that you're in that leadership role?
I don't feel any added pressure. I feel like it's something that I can do because, on my high school team, I was the leader. So, I had my freshman year, we had Wanya, Mean, we had Rock. So it was just easy for me to fit into that role because I was used to it. But I had to take a step back, but now I'm just trying to be more vocal and get my teammates involved more.
You faced off in the Charleston Classic. Fresh off the season, only a couple weeks into your season, and you're playing some of the top teams in the country. What do you feel you can do as a team? Do you feel that that's a chance where your team can actually raise the stakes and show that you're not only a force to be reckoned with in your conference, but also in the country as well?
Of course, we're playing against great teams such as Clemson, Auburn, especially Dayton. You know, those teams go to the NCAA tournament almost every year. So, you know, it's a great time to, you know, get ourselves together. And if we can win that tournament, then, you know, it'll be a major step in the right direction.
And Justin, talk a little bit about Rokas Gustis. He's one of the leaders of this team as a senior. How excited are you to play alongside with him? What's he like as a leader for this team?
This is probably the most excited I've been about Rock since. But you know, he's been great. He's been more vocal than I can imagine, and you know, just helping me as well become a better player. The pick and roll this year should be really dangerous, especially with Rock setting good screens and then rolling to the basket really hard, finishing with either hand. His development has been really good, especially the leader part of it.
Kenny Wormley and Desir Bowie, what do they have to offer to this team this season? Obviously, both of them are going to be competing for that, you know, that starting spot at guard. So tell us a little bit about that.
The competition and practice between those two has been amazing too. It's just everything, like from battling in practice, and then, you know, like I said, just chemistry off the court. But you know, they both bring fast-paced offense to us. Desir is more pass first. Kenny can score like anybody, you know, especially them being lefty. But you know, they both bring great qualities to the team. Leadership, whatever you need, they bring it.
Let me ask you, you've been around this team now for several years. Is there one player this offseason that we haven't talked about that no one's really expecting to take this next step into being a go-to starter or a go-to scorer if need be? Is there one player that's going to surprise people when the season starts?
Desir. Me personally, I work out with Desir all the time, so I know what Desir can do, and especially, you know, coming off, you know, the bad injury that he had, I feel like this year he has something to prove, and you know, I feel like he can do it this year.
Now, when we talk about the CAA in general, we've mentioned before you're fourth in the CAA. UNCW seems to have taken a step back with losing their head coach to the ACC. Do you feel that now with UNCW no longer the force that they once were in the past couple of years, do you feel that this is a prime opportunity for your team to take this next step?
I do, but the CAA is very unexpected. Like, anything can happen. This is a great league that we play in. I would say one of the best in the country, because you just never know what you're going to get day in and day out. You get surprises from any CAA team at any given day, so you'll never know. But we have a good chance here, especially, you know, since we were picked fourth, so we have, you know, the ability to be in the window of being CAA champs. So.
One final question here for you, Justin. Is there one team that we're talking about in the CAA? Is there one team that you don't think a lot of people are giving enough respect to in the CAA?
I would probably say Elon. Elon is a very talented team. They have a great coach. They run a lot of great sets. They all cut hard. They have a lot of shooters that space the floor. So, you know, I think any team in our conference is going to really have a hard time guarding them. But, you know, it's going to be really fun this year.
Well, Justin, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great season. Good luck on your opener against Army.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right, and again, that was Justin Wright, Foreman, first team CAA, all CAA first team. Excuse me, I had to catch my words there for a minute, but a great player Justin Wright Foreman is, and he will be leading the Hofstra Pride men's basketball team when their season starts. He's the go-to scorer when we talk about them. And before we talk about this Hofstra Pride men's basketball team, we have another star, a first-team All-CAA player, but this time for the women's side of things, and it's Ashanae Durant. Ashanae, thanks so much for joining us.
Man, this is loud. Yes.
Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. But so first off, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Now, let's get right into it. First team All-CAA preseason poll. What does that feel like for you?
It doesn't feel like much, honestly. I received the same thing as last year, and then that outcome. Like, honestly, it's just like, okay, that's nice, Like, I'm just worried about the season. I was getting wins, so that's all.
And you have the opportunity here this year to lead a talented group of sophomores and juniors. How important do you feel your own leadership is to this team?
I think it's very important. As I said, like in other interviews, whereas though I'm not much of a vocal leader, so definitely what I do on the court, not even my play, but what I also do off the court, it's very important to showing like what the younger ladies here need to do. So definitely, my leadership is a big part in this program.
You had several double-doubles on last season. How do you build off such a impressive junior campaign last season heading into this 2017 campaign?
Just keep getting boards and and scoring. Definitely every single rebound. If I can get it, I'll go get it. That's just me playing hard. So just keep building off of that and just continue to grow.
Your team is picked 7th in the CAA preseason rankings. Is that too low for your team, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah, of course. I feel like our team has definitely come a long way. I'm sure the CAA will see that, once time comes to play. We are very different than we were last year. Let's just say that, yeah.
Is there anything you in particular worked on as a player in the offseason to improve yourself, or just your general gaming?
Just my general game, definitely trying to play more out on the perimeter, developing my game out there as well. Just in general, everything.
And last season you led the CAA in double-doubles. How much more difficult is it for you to prepare when you go into games knowing that you're going to be the focal point of opposing defenses?
It's very difficult. Last year I got first hand of it where, at times I would get double teamed. I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. But as the season went on, I learned how to adjust, how to look for my teammates, and then play off of that.
What has the atmosphere been like so far during this preseason around the team? Just talk about your overall thoughts on that.
I feel like it's been a lot calmer. We're getting to know each other better, our playing styles as well. It's definitely a lot peaceful, very more peaceful in the basketball environment, off the court environment. We just mesh well as a team and family.
Let's talk about specific players on your team. Okay. Is there one player right now that you feel has surprised you or the team in general and could possibly step into a starter role and possibly even a star role when the season comes around?
Definitely Marianne. Last year she was a freshman, gave us minutes, and when she did give us minutes, she was able to get boards for us, scoring for us. She's definitely going to be one of those players who moves well without the ball and with the ball. And definitely Ariana Leon, we've seen a lot of her last year. She's one of those players who could get up and down the court fast, play defense, and give us points whenever, she can. She's also a scoring threat as well.
Now, when we talk about some of these players, obviously a lot of freshmen were on the team last year. A lot of them got quality minutes in a season that really didn't end as you guys would have wanted to. My question is just very basic. When we talk about this young team that's now getting older, do you feel that there are going to be some games that you're going to be able to pull out now that you've gained some quality experience against some better teams last season?
I think so, but let's hope, I never want to get pulled out of the game, anything I can do to help my team, if I'm not physically hurting, tired, anything, I've always wanted to stay in the game, but I do have confidence in my teammates that they can hold their ground.
When you look at your schedule this upcoming season, are there any games in particular that you circled on the calendar as being big tests for your team, whether it be non-conference games, in-conference games?
Not really. I feel like every game, is going to be a test for us. We can't take any opponent lightly. Honestly, I feel like this year our conference is pretty solid. We'll be able to compete with anyone, even our non-conference as well.
Who of any of your teammates do you feel have been a bit of a surprise in this preseason? Who you feel are going to make a bigger impact than you may have thought of, than you may have not thought of coming into the season?
I think honestly, Alexis Davis, you know, she's now going to be, you know, our starting point guard. You know, lost Crystal Luciano, who is always like a great player to play with out there. But Alexis is definitely picking up everything. You know, she's definitely more of a scoring threat than Crystal was, and I feel like, you know, we'll see a lot more out of her this year.
Now, you take part in one tournament, your team does, in the Lady Rebel Roundup. You go down to Vegas. How excited are you for that?
I'm really excited, yeah. It's another trip to have fun, but also try to get wins as well.
So you do play some very difficult teams. UNLV, Minnesota, Wake Forest, possibly. As a team going on the road, and most likely your longest road trip of the season, what do you do mentally to prepare your team, or what does the team do to mentally prepare for a matchup such as that?
I feel like, you know, when people think of playing like, you know, a bigger team or like a team that has a name as, you know, Wake Forest, you know, you kind of get scared and intimidated. I don't think we're scared of any opponent, you know. Like, if we play like we know how to play, then like our outcome should be what we want it to be.
And Ajane, how important do you think a trip early in the season like that is to building team chemistry and towards forming some sort of team atmosphere?
I feel like it's very important, you know. This trip is before the conference, you know. I feel like it'll be a great way to get all the issues that we have as a team out, you know, to play out, so that when conference does come around, we'll have everything together, you know. I feel like it's a great experience.
Ana Hernandez-Hill had a very good year her freshman year, was deemed the sharpshooter for your team, but that's pretty much all she did. A lot of her shots came from beyond the arc. What have you seen from her that's opened up her game a little bit more so far in this offseason?
I mean, Ana is one of the best shooters that we have on our team, along with Olivia Askin, but that's her specialty, you know. If she can knock down those threes, those shots, and like, hey, keep doing it, you know, keep perfecting that craft. So I just seen her, you know, getting better with the shot, you know, a lot of like, you know, instead of hesitating and shooting, you know, just letting go.
You guys always have a really competitive matchups with Stony Brook this season. Talk a little bit about that and how you guys are ready to prepare for them.
Stony Brook. I don't know. I never look at it as a rivalry, but everyone else does here. So I look at it like, oh, okay, we play Stony Brook. If we're gonna win, like there's no loss, you know. Like, but it's just another game, you know. Hopefully that's the game that gets a lot of our fans out, you know, because it is Long Island. But yeah, it's just another game too.
And we look at the CAA in general. James Madison, obviously one of the top favorites in the CAA. But in your opinion, if we're talking about one team that could surprise the CAA in general, who do you think that is?
One team that could surprise the CAA. Us. I love that. Yeah. Definitely, I feel like since a lot of the freshmen didn't really have playing experience last year, and then now they're going to have to play more of a role and play more minutes, you know, that would definitely surprise a lot of teams in the CAA because they don't know what they're capable of. So I would say yes.
And what have you felt you've improved on or tried to improve on most this offseason?
As a player, I used to try to improve on like pretty much everything, you know. Just my game overall, like me shooting more threes, attacking more, like just enter different things into my game, you know, like just going outside the box, like things that I might not have been comfortable with before doing them, you know, just expanding my game to not just only like, oh, one thing, you know.
And Ajane, before we begin to wrap things up with you, what do you think, if you had to tell the Hofstra fans to come out and watch your team for one reason, what would it be? Why is your team going to be exciting this season?
I would tell Hofstra fans to come out because we need people to come out, but no. You know, I feel like nowadays, women's basketball in general doesn't get a lot of support, and that definitely needs to change because our sport is just as well interesting as the men's sport. We play hard, we play competitive. We work hard, and I feel like it would be something for the fans to watch, have a good time as well. And just come out and support because we're amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely, Ashane, thank you so much.
Thank you guys
for joining us, and have a great season.
Thank you.
And again, that was Ashane Durant, first team all-conference preseason of Hofstra Pride women's basketball. And gentlemen, of course, we talk about Ashane Durant, Justin Wright Foreman, two players that are first team CAA or preseason CAA, and we talk about some of the role players that come on. And of course, we have two players coming on right now that you don't necessarily think of them as role players, as we bring on Rokas Gustis and Eli Pemberton up to the podium slash booth over here. So, gentlemen, first off, Eli, you've got your headset on first. How's everything going?
Everything's going good. How about yourself?
Not too bad, Rokas.
I don't think this is working, is it?
No, but it's working. It's unfortunately that's got to be the you took the bad mic here.
That's okay. Elijah's gonna talk the most here, so.
All right, so let's start this off, gentlemen. You're two players that need to come up big if Hofstra's going to win a CAA championship. We've already had Justin come on and talk about both of you as players, but what do you feel you both need to do in order to be able to win a championship this season?
First things first is defense. We got to crack down on defense. Every magazine probably questions our defense, and it's just something that we got to work on this year. And we're working hard in practice as a team, as a unit, getting better, making each other better, and we're just going to turn a lot of heads this year.
Yeah, definitely defense is the most important thing for us. We can't really score. We got great guys like Elijah and Justin, and the Jour is coming after injury, playing really well on offense. So I feel like the defense is going to be the biggest key for us if you want to go far in the tournament and go to the dance.
And guys, what has been the overall atmosphere, the team chemistry been like so far in the preseason?
It's been great. That trip to Canada was definitely something that benefited us. Just staying around each other, bringing each other confidence. It's definitely big. I love my team this year, and it's going to be really fun.
Well, Rokas, let's start off with you. You're arguably one of the better rebounders to ever suit up in a Pride uniform. What does that say about your overall performance as now you're on the Karl Malone watch list?
A better or one of the best? I mean, that's a big difference. But yeah, that's a great point. It's just great. Everybody always dream about it to be in those switch lists and stuff like this, but it doesn't really have an impact in my game right now. I'm just going to play the same way I played. I'm not trying to bring any extra attention, try to win games and try to make my teammates better. And, like I said, it's all about winning games. It doesn't matter what awards you're going to get in the beginning of the season because it matters when you get it after the season. Last year I was picked preseason first team and I didn't make any team. So, it keeps me humble and makes me work hard.
Eli, now in a more prominent role on the offensive end for this team, what do you feel you've improved on most so far in the offseason?
Leadership, really, and the individual game will speak for itself, but leadership is definitely one of my qualities that I have to improve on, that I actually did improve on. Being a freshman last year, I didn't have much of a say. I was just a freshman who was able to score, put the ball in the hoop, but this year I got more of a dominant role as a person who has a voice, so that's something I take pride in right now. And, for the individual game, just working on, just keeping things simple. It got tougher for me when I started getting on the scouting report for my freshman year, and I started overthinking. So this year, and at a more prominent role, just going to keep it more simple.
And Eli, for you as a guard, what is it like having someone like Rokas down low who grabs those rebounds and is someone you can kind of feed while he's in the post?
It's great for me. I could just, he gets the rebounds and I go. So, I let him control that. That's his thing. I think of him as the best rebounder in the country. So, having him, and he's offensive-minded when he gets in the post, he's very dominant when he wants to be. And, he's going to have a great year this year.
Rokas, one question for you here. 2 years ago, when you had an unbelievable season, you had Wanya Green with you, and we saw a lot of the pick-and-roll action offensively, and it worked, obviously, to the advantage getting to the CAA championship game. Last season, it was more of a feel-out, it seems, with some of these younger guards that you saw. Now, in your final season for Hofstra, Do you feel that connection's been brought on with any particular player like you had with Wanye 2 years ago?
I don't think the last year the guys were younger. We had Deron Powers who was a senior and Brian Bernal was a senior. It was just different players, different. It was a different game style of game. It was definitely worse for me. Not having Wanye, not having Amin or Denton on that perimeter. But I had a great teammates this year, having Elijah and Justin who doesn't miss a three-pointer if I pass the ball to him, or a lot of him drives off the ball off the screen so hard. I'm going to be open. We just have to click as a team and play better. And I'm looking forward. And the guards like Kenny and DeJour is doing a great job. And those two of them together, one of the coming off the bench, it's going to have a huge impact in our offensive game.
And you guys, in Rokas, you mentioned Justin Wright Foreman. From both your guys' perspectives, from watching him in practice, just how good of a scorer is he?
Oh man, I have to guard him every practice, so it's tough. Me especially this year, trying to be also a great defender. Someone like him, he's going to kill a lot of people's confidence this year. He just drills it in your face, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, following up with that, Justin is one of the best scorers I have ever seen, and he doesn't miss a shot, so it helps a lot. It's our team, and if you're struggling and Justin gets hot, it's tough time for the team.
I think a game that a lot of fans have circled on their calendar is that December 22nd game against Villanova. What are you guys' overall thoughts about that game, and how do you guys want to prepare as you head into that matchup?
Just think of it as a normal game. I know it's Villanova. They won the championship a couple of years ago. But, this is a different team this year with different mindset. I think we learned a lot from Kentucky last year, and especially me as a freshman, it was tough. It was a very tough matchup going against, those very dominant freshmen. So I learned a lot, and I've just been working hard. And when we play Villanova, it's going to be another game. And we're not even thinking about it right now. We're thinking about first game against Army, and we're going to take one game at a time.
You said it right. I have nothing else to add.
So let's move over, continuing to talk about your schedule. The Gildan Charleston Classic comes up in a couple weeks when your season starts, and you're taking on some very formidable opponents, some teams in the ACC, some teams in the A10. What does this tournament do for the esteem of Hofstra for you guys as players as well?
It does a lot. We want to go down there and we got the mindset to win. With a team like ours this year, we have very big goals. So with that, we're going to have to, we got to upset a lot of teams, and this tournament gives us the chance to do that. So once we get there, we just got to take care of business and, show that the CAA, a mid-major program, we got a lot of talent in the CAA, especially at Hofstra. So that's pretty much what it is right now.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get us ready for conference play, and playing Charleston and playing a team like Towson was really tough and physical. That's what's going to be like in Charleston Classic, playing at Dayton the first day, and next days are going to be a lot easier up and out. So I think it's going to be an exciting time and going to get us ready for conference play.
Rokas, Coach Mihalik up at the podium called you Rock, and we've heard that name several times now for several years. I just want to know one thing. Where did that nickname originate from?
My name is Rokas, so I feel like...
Who started it, in general?
I mean, it's just, I make it easy for people, to say, hey, what's your name, Rock? And, even when I order coffee in Starbucks, I'm not saying my full name because they probably would misspell it, so I Rock. And they're like, oh, Rock? I'm like, yeah. Like the Rock? Or no, just Rock. So I feel like that's easy for other people to say, not make it difficult.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. And guys, what are you most excited about when it comes to this team? What's one reason why Hofstra fans should get excited for this team? What do you think you guys really have to offer this season?
Winning. Last year we just struggled a lot. We struggled sort of with just clicking together, and it was just hard to get the ball rolling. This year, that Canada trip, once again, it did a lot for us, and we saw what we're capable of once we all put our minds to it and we worked together. So this year we're just excited to win. We want to get Coach 20-plus wins again like they had 2 seasons ago. So that's the goal right now, and that's what I think that we're going to achieve.
Scoring. If you want to come and see a lot of scoring, come to our games. We have guys who can really, really score and not going to be boring.
Let's actually talk about the team in general, because you talk about you guys have a lot of scores, but is there one player that you both think that could surprise a lot of teams and a lot of players in the CAA that we didn't really look on or touch upon last season or even heading into this season as well?
The Joe boy. I'll say the Joe boy is going to be a guy who's going to surprise lots of teams, because coming off the injury, tough injury, missing 9 months of playing basketball, and he's humble, he's hungry, like he's ready to go and practice. He's playing so well, and Canada trip make him get confident again, and he's playing the best basketball he probably ever played. I've been around him for the past 3 years, and he got so much better. So everybody's excited to see him play.
Yeah, I can say the same. Definitely both players at the point guard position with Kenny Wormley and DeJour Bowie. I think both of them are going to surprise this league. Kenny, a great point guard, can get to the rack with great size, and DeJour, just an excellent point guard. He reminds me of like a smaller Wanya from my eyes. Not as good scoring ability, but the vision and the point guard skills and the IQ, he's definitely up there.
Is there anything that you guys think that you need to tune up before the start of the 2017-18 season?
Absolutely. I got to repeat it. It's just defense. Defense is definitely the key, and offense wins games, so we got a lot of score, but defense wins championships. So once we find that out, once we get that confidence and get that hunger and really just sit down and guard our man, I think we're going to be unstoppable.
All right, Eli Pemberton and Rokas Gucci's of Hofstra Pride men's basketball teams. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And of course, we are listening live inside Hofstra Basketball Media Day for Hofstra Pride men's and women's basketball teams. Nick Farrer here with Dwight Spencer and Kenny Conrad. We have a few more guests still in line. We have Aliana Leone and Boogie Brzezowski coming on in just a couple of minutes as they make their way to the podium. So, gentlemen, very quickly, I think this has been a very successful time. And as we bring on the two ladies of Hofstra Pride women's basketball team, Aliana Leone and Boogie Brzezowski. Ladies, put on the headsets, please. And
There we go.
all right, thanks so much for joining us. Unfortunately, the headset's not always the best quality, but so far, so much. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So let's start right away. Aliana, you played last season for the team. Boogie, coming on this season, you're now able to actually play for this team. What are your thoughts heading into the 2017-18 season?
Well, I'm really excited to finally get to play again, but also I'm excited at the fact that, we've been working hard all summer and competing against each other, and now it's time to compete against, other competition. So I'm really excited. We're really young, but we also have a lot of experience from Aliana, Nay, and Liv, like it's been said before. So we have a lot going for us, and I think we're going to do amazing things this year, and I believe we're going to win.
Yeah. For me, it's my last year, and seeing this thing growing so much from last year to this year, a lot of experience. We're young, but this is a team that we probably are not the most talented team, but we have such a good chemistry that we can talk to each other. We look to each other, and that's something that is gonna make us be better every day, and absolutely we're gonna win. We're looking forward for that.
And what's been, from both of your guys' perspectives, the overall feeling around the team so far in preseason? How upbeat, how excited are you guys for this year?
We are super excited. In practice every day, we're competing, we're going hard. We're arguing with each other, just to get that one extra call. So we're super excited, and like I said, I can't wait to play, and I'm probably speaking for Aliana here too. We're just really ready to get going.
Yeah, working hard. How should say we're giving that extra mile after practice, before practice. We can hear shooting. We see some of the sophomore, let's go shoot, and that motivated me as a senior. Looking at them, and they're like, come on, let's go shoot with me. I'm like, I'm tired, but I'm gonna do it, And even Boogie, when we were in the wave, he was like, let's go, Ali, let's go. So that kind of motivation is making me be better, That's what we need.
Boogie, for you, how excited are you to be back on Long Island playing, pretty much where you started, playing basketball?
It is such a great feeling to be back, knowing that, my whole family's going to be there for my first game, all of my friends. It's super exciting, and finally get to represent Long Island again, and be positive and come out and work as hard as I can, to bring Hofstra back and, to make a name for us, because it's time, we're underlooked, and that time is over now because we're ready to go.
Aliana, you as a player have seen yourself go from more of a bench player and role player to now a starter. over the past 3 years now, heading into your final season for Hofstra, what do you attribute this success to, this rise to being a leader and a possible lead scorer for your team?
I would say Coach K confident in me. Like, she trusts me, and she knows what I'm capable of doing. My teammates, I mean, they recognize what I'm capable to do, and that's something that I appreciate every day. Them looking at me as a leader on and off the court, so that's something that it really has motivated me in these 3 years, coming to my last year.
And Boogie, you won't be able to get on the court till around Christmas time. How are you preparing for the challenge of not getting into those first, several games? How hard is that going to be for you?
It's going to be really tough. I mean, it was really tough for me, to sit out last year and just watch. But knowing that I'll only be out for a specific number of games and then I'll be back, it's going to be tough, watching my teammates out there battling without me, because we battle with each other every day in practice. But they're going to hold it down. We're not just based on one player. We're an all-around team. And when I come back, we're just going to have the flow. We're going to be all together. And I don't think there's going to be any major need for adjustments, because, we know each other. We know each other's game. So it's going to be really exciting to finally be back on the court.
I guess for the both of you, talk a little bit about Coach Kilburn Savetsky. How is, what are some advice that she's given you guys? And we hear a lot of, your teammates talk about her as that second, motherly figure for you guys.
Coach K will do pretty much anything for us, and kind of our motive this year is, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. We'll start off rough in practice, but then we'll pick it up right away and finish strong. So I guess pretty much just living by that, not kind of much how you start, but how you finish the game, how you finish practice, how you finish school. It's all about the finish, and that's what we're going by, and she's willing to put her back on the line for us, and that's all that we can ask for as players.
Yeah, she always talk about consistency. Be consistent every day. I mean, now we're working hard on that, because our team sometimes we come to practice and we're like, oh, we're tired, let's rest. And then we come to mom, we're going to do it better. No, she talks about consistency. Yeah. This conference is about consistency, and who can work and play hard through the season.
Your team right now, preseason rank is 7th. I'm sure I already know the answer to this, but is that too low for this team?
I mean, it's just right. Let them underestimate us, because we're coming. It's better to be the underdog than on top and have people chasing you.
That's motivation right there.
That's it.
Look at that 7. No way. We're better. But we're gonna work hard in order to make people prove wrong.
We know we're better than that. It's time for us to prove to others out there that we're better than that.
And can you guys just talk a little bit about Ajane Durant? Just how important is she to this team, not only in terms of what she does on the court, but also the example that she sets maybe off the court?
Right. Nay is just, a super role model for us. She's the senior that has all the experience on and off the court. She leads by example, the way she plays off the court, the way she handles herself. Nay is just a truly amazing spot to this team. And without her, I don't know where we'd be right now. We'd probably be lacking some experience. Yes. She's killing us on the offensive boards in practice. So she's giving the younger players the experience that they need, that we're going to need for next year without Nay and Aliana and Liv. But Nay is tremendous, and I'm sure Aliana has a lot to add.
I mean, going to 4th year playing with her has been blessed, having a player that go hard every day, no matter what. She's probably not the more vocal person, but she living by ads, she do whatever it takes. And now that it's our last year, I mean, it's kind of emotional, I'm not going to play with her anymore, but just having that figure there is just pushing me to be better. And as how Boogie said, she leading the sophomore and freshmen, even her as a transfer, she's talking to us. No matter the position you play, she's going to be there talking to you.
Now, is there one player on this team that you think is going to surprise people when the season starts, that people are sort of overlooking it being a possible starter or star player, but eventually comes on and produces like a star?
Yeah, I think Alexis Davis filling in at that point guard position, after losing Crystal Luciano, she's going to play a huge part. She worked so hard over the summer. She's doing great things. Her defense has improved. So I think she's going to be a standout player for us in the beginning of the season.
I would say Sika. I mean, she's a transfer. New experience for her coming here to New York, and having that player that can play the 3, the 4, even point guard.
Yeah.
I mean, she's super athletic, and we're gonna have her there.
We got some secret weapons.
Yeah, we do. We don't want to tell all that,
We're not gonna keep it.
I guess pretty much just talk about your overall team chemistry heading into the 2017-18 campaign. You guys seem very excited. You guys have a lot to say about, your teammates. So just tell us a little bit more about that.
We're just one huge family, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I mean, half of the team is from overseas, and they're nowhere near close to their families and their parents. So I just think that alone makes us even closer than than any other team that there is out there. Our chemistry is great, whether it's on the court or off the court. We're always there for each other, and then having Coach K as the mother figure for the overseas players is really huge for us. So it's great playing with them. It's great, getting to know each other. When they graduate, I'm going to be sad, and I've been here for a year and a half so far. So
yeah, it's nice because we have so many personalities, and when they all connect, it's like you putting pieces together in a puzzle. We all connect and we one.
Everyone is different. There's not two people that are the same.
Exactly.
All right, Aliana Leone and Boogie Brzezowski. Ladies, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck.
Thank you.
And, of course, again, that was Aliana Leone and Boogie Brzezowski of Hofstra Pride Women's Basketball, as we are at Hofstra Pride Basketball Media Day here on 88.7 FM, WRHU Hempstead. Nick Ferry here with Kenny Conrad and Dwight Spencer. Only two more guests coming on for the program, and it's the two head coaches of Hofstra Basketball. And we're going to have Joe Mahalik come up, and he's making his way to the booth now. And for Hofstra Pride men's basketball, gentlemen, a team right now fourth in the preseason in the CAA, as he's making his way over here very quickly. Coach, you get your headset on. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, man, it was the season. It's good to be with you guys. I didn't dress right. I didn't realize we were all supposed to be wearing black today. Men in Black. Isn't that a movie, Men in Black?
Yep.
Men in Black. Look at you guys.
Great movie.
Great movie. Will Smith.
We'll start it off right away. Your team was picked fourth in the CAA preseason poll. Do you feel that's too low for your team?
Well, here's what I think about all the preseason predictions. And first of all, what do they mean? It's fun. It's great for you all you media people. It's great for you guys, right? And it's fun. It's fun to read about it and listen to everybody's opinion. But if you have to do it, my thoughts are this. College of Charleston in our league is terrific. They're unanimous #1 pick, all right? The only reason they didn't get totally all the votes with the coaches' polls because you're not allowed to vote for your own team. So, they couldn't vote for themselves. So somebody else. So that's why they voted for somebody else. But, so you got College of Charleston. Now, I'm not going to mention them by name because I'll be locker room material for when the teams play us. But, I think after College of Charleston, I think there's about 4 teams that you could pick second, third, fourth, or fifth. None of those teams would be shocked. Take us, for example. We got picked fourth. If somebody would have picked us second, I wouldn't have been shocked. If somebody would have picked us fifth, I wouldn't have been shocked. So I think those 4 teams, we all look alike. At the end of the year, who knows who's going to be second, third, fourth. It might be somebody else. But I think those 4, you kind of lump them together. And then the other five schools, they just, ended up being picked 6 through 10. But somebody in there is going to surprise somebody. They're going to finish in the top 5. And, boy, there's some good teams down there. So whatever league you're in, it's the toughest league in the country. We all say that, but this league's terrific.
And Coach, now into your 5th season with the Pride, how happy are you with the growth of your program under your tutelage over these last 5 years?
Well, the goal coming here was to have a chance to win the league every year, to take a team that was at the bottom and not be at the bottom, and be like this year we're picked 4th. We're top half of the team picked before the season. We've got good players. We've got 3 kids who Rock has been a first-team All-Conference player. Justin's been a preseason pick for first-team All-Conference player, and Elijah's a candidate to be first-team All-Conference player. So, we've got good players. We've got a program that wins. We got a program that thinks about championships now, just not worried about how many they lose. So, that's the idea. That was the goal when we came here.
Coach, digging a little bit deeper, you graduated, a backcourt in Deron Powers and Brian Bernardi last season. Where does your focus, pretty much lie to fill in that key area?
Yeah. So it's a great question, and I think everybody knows that Justin proved that he can. We're going to certainly miss Brian Bernardi, but Justin's a logical and obvious guy to take over for Brian at the off guard position, and by doing that too, we can move Elijah Pemberton off. He played too many positions last year. We can put him on the other wing. So the question then becomes, the drop down box is, okay, so now how about point guard? And that's where Kenny Wormley and DeJour step in. Those 2 guys have both shown some really good days. They both have really good days. They had some good games up in Canada. I think between the 2 of them, we're going to have a pretty good player at the point guard. and not that they wouldn't play together sometimes, but I think with one of those guys on the floor, we're going to have a pretty good point guard, and hopefully they'll do as well as Deron Powers did last year.
Coach, you mentioned when you're up at the podium, you're talking about injuries on your team, and obviously you mentioned you haven't had a full practice with your entire guys here. What does that do for the psyche or the chemistry of your team, knowing that not everyone's playing at a particular time?
Well, whatever negative you have, you want to turn it into a positive, and so when a guy's not out, like we kind of use that. You probably hear we're in the NFL season right now. You always hear this phrase, "next man up," right? Mm-hmm. And so but that is the way it is with every team. I mean, next man up. So, like Matija Radovic has a sprained ankle, and, somebody else did something. So, whoever's not, somebody else has got to go play. So get in there and play. So that's what our guys have been doing.
And, Coach, a lot of your players we've talked to have said DeJour Bowie is probably their pick for a player who's going to surprise people this year. Would you say that is your pick as well, or who else are you looking to maybe surprise some people?
Oh, geez, I don't know. That's a good one. DeJour could be the guy that could surprise everybody. And, the two other guys that could surprise everybody would be Joel Angus and Matija Radovic, because they're new. But, there's a bunch of guys that have a chance to surprise people. So I hope they all surprise us.
Coach Rokas Gusi is named to the Karl Malone watch list. Not to sound so cliche, but how important do you think his impact is going to be on the season this year?
Yeah, that's a great honor. That's an incredible award. I mean, whoever's on that list is, and he's a very deserving guy, but whoever's on that list is a really good player. So, and he deserves that. So, yeah, I mean, he's like you said at the podium right there. You build your team around him. He's our rock. I mean, he has the right name, right? His nickname is Rock. He clogs up the middle. He's our space eater. He's the best rebounder in the country, and he catches the ball, makes layups. I mean, you gotta have it when you're playing against Rokas Gusi. You gotta have an answer for him. You gotta have a plan for him, because if you don't have a plan for him, he'll tear you up.
Coach, Justin Wright-Foreman last season burst onto the scene offensively. I know last year you were talking about he was due and how this is the type of player he can be. Now going into a season where he's expected to be the number one scorer, how has he reacted to that sort of mantra now being the number one scorer?
Well, that's a great question, and that's his biggest challenge. I mean, he's already proven that he can score a lot of points. He's already proven he can make any kind of shot possible. He now has to prove he can deal with the expectations, and he can deal with I don't like to use the word pressure, but he can deal with that. He can deal with the fact that he's going to be circled on the scouting report. Got to stop this guy. Got to stop number 3, and that's the challenge. So it's more between the ears than on the court.
And, Coach, your team made the trip to Canada over the summer to play some games. How important was that trip, in not only just on the court, but also off the court, building some team chemistry?
That trip was, as the commercial says, priceless. I mean, it was just, you could check every box there. Now, you make a good point. Off the court, it was great to be together. It was great to become a team. It was great for that camaraderie, the bonding. We went to an incredible city, and our guys got to experience that together. It wasn't, it was 90% basketball, but they did some other things too. They saw, when you're in Montreal, you really feel like you're in another country. And I don't say this disrespectfully. Toronto's an incredible city. I've been there many times. I used to live right near Toronto. But to me, Toronto's a lot like a lot of American cities. Whereas Montreal, you really feel like you're more in a European city. So you have the camaraderie, the experience, the basketball. It was invaluable.
Coach, taking a look at your schedule, you take part in the Gildan Charleston Classic against some of the top teams in the country, teams from the ACC and the A10. When you go and you look at a tournament like this to put on your schedule, what do you going into thinking about this tournament? What do you think is the main goal heading into those type of games?
Well, what's the main goal? I mean, the main goal is to try to win the whole thing and just be one of the surprise teams in the country, because it's such a well-known tournament. Look, you got your Power 5 schools in there too. Clemson's in there. Auburn is in there. We play Dayton. Dayton's not a Power 5 school. They're not a Power 5 conference. They're ranked 10. But there's a lot of really big-name schools, and nobody's expecting Hofstra to win it. So you want to go in there with that David and Goliath attitude, where you can do something really, really special. But in the long run, in the big picture, if you don't win it all, that's the number one goal. You want to become a really good team and have whatever happens to you down there in those 3 games be a big reason why down the road you got to be a team good enough to win the league.
And Coach, Coach, of course, we have to ask about Villanova. Jay Wright coming back to Hofstra, taking on his former team. As a coach, do you feel any added pressure going up against a guy who's won a national championship?
Oh, I don't know about added pressure. I don't know if that's the right word. I mean, we've been friends for years. I mean, I've known Jay Wright for forever. He's a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, forget the national championship part. Well, don't forget it. Nobody will ever forget it. But he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and he should be. He's as good a guy as there is. He's great for college basketball. You don't like to play against your friends, but it'll be a neat experience. And I don't know if you feel pressure. It's just more the excitement. It's more the opportunity to do something pretty cool.
And Coach, if there was one thing that you really want your team to work on before tip-off on November 10th, what would it be?
We just got to get it better defensively. Like we had a little exhibition game the other night, and we were just so poor defensively. We didn't feel like we were good on offense, and we still scored 47 points in the first half, but we gave up 50. And we just got to get a whole lot better defensively.
Okay, head coach Joe Mihalik of Hofstra Pride men's basketball. Coach, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. You do a great job. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. Good luck on the season. And again, Joe Mihalik, head coach of the Hofstra Pride men's basketball team. We have one more guest still to go before we start to wrap things up, and it's head coach Krista Kilburn-Stavesky of Hofstra Pride women's basketball. Gentlemen, Coach Mihalik, pretty excited for the upcoming season.
Yeah, he seems really excited about his team and some of the pieces that he has, and I really think he should be. I mean, we've heard it from all the players that we've talked to today. They're excited. They feel like they have some very important pieces that can contribute to this team.
And of course, head coach Krista Kilburn-Stavesky makes her way to the booth as she gets her headset on. Coach, we'll wait for you to we'll get you situated here, but how are you? Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, be careful there.
I told you I have a face for radio.
There it is.
Look, I'm causing it to squeak. Is that me? Whoa.
That's odd. Wow. Oh well. So, Coach, first off, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. So, your team this year, 7th in the preseason polls for women's basketball. Do you feel that's too low for your team?
I'm always kind of happy if you want to just give us an understatement. Last year, you knew that we were graduated 5 seniors. You knew it was going to be a battle. So, now, that's where they put us. So that's fine. I mean, everything's good bulletin board material. I know it was a chip on my seniors, but I just have to go back to that statement I was making that we need to be finishing where we need to be. You might have a big win over XYZ and ranked team or this or that, and then all of a sudden you don't turn it on in the conference tournament. So I think that's the verbiage I'm just trying to reiterate constantly with these guys. But it's bulletin board material. It's also preseason. So let's go. It's easy to make some type of prediction without yet, getting out there and finding out who and what we are.
And Coach, what's been the atmosphere like surrounding the team so far in the preseason? How happy are you with, how competitive your team has been or how upbeat?
Pretty much that sums it right there. Probably in my 12-year tenure, this ranks as one of those tops. 20. Even the year we really struggled, my second year, that team always gave me everything we got. We've got way more talent than we had that year. Obviously, but I've had some good years with Candace Bellacchio, Marie Malone, obviously Shantae and Candace Vaughn. Those kind of people were just fun to coach. But now you come with this team, and it's like every day I want to get out on the practice floor. I want to, kind of be out there coaching and teaching. Tons of teaching going on. Getting them to, get acclimated to where we are. So I know our whole entire coaching staff feels the same with the work ethic and the will and just how everybody's just competing. You made that comment. I mean, we haven't, we've pretty tight on who's going against who on a regular basis, but it's not some team blowing somebody out by 20, so they have been really pushing each other day in and day out to try to make everybody better.
Your 2 off-season recruits in Sika Kuchik and Mia Hoff, what impact are they going to be able to make on the game this season?
You know what? That's nice that you mentioned that because I didn't get a chance to talk about Mia. I like to always mention all my players. Even Micaiah, I didn't get to talk about her. But Mia, especially as a freshman, Mia can do some things on the defensive end, and I'm just trying to build up her confidence. Come in, take care of the ball, do these things. If it's 2 minutes at a time, whatever it is, you're giving Nay a break, you're giving someone a break, that should be her role, and she's embraced the heck out of that. So, I mean, I think she's going to be a little surprised with that if she can just, continue to work her way in. Where, on the other hand, you've got Sika, who comes out from a junior college, who's had a lot of game experience, played for her national team in Romania. I knew she was talented. I watched her score 20-something points in the national championship last year, but what I just didn't realize, and that's even more of a surprise, is just how versatile she is. And she can just help us out in so many areas. Understands the game, just has a great knack, great savvy, athletic, and skilled. So I'm excited for her to get out there and get some time and see what she can bring.
Coach, let's talk about the main star in your team, Ashane Durant. First team all CAA right now in the preseason poll. Now a senior in her last year. What have you seen from her growth as a freshman to now?
Well, I think she had a major chip on her shoulder getting picked second team last year. I think that's been the driving force for her. I think last year, I know she's not probably completely there of understanding, but what she had to go through last year is going to make her better for this year. Not what she can bring to the table. She's always been consistent with that, taking over a game, being that scorer, just being that, that go-to for us. But I just think now, don't get frustrated, try to embrace and keep building everybody up around you. She's a different type of vocal leader, but she'll do it. She'll do it in practice. She'll be talking. She'll do it, so she does it in her way. So I just want her to have a good mindset about what we can do this year and her continue building everybody up around her and feeling like not all the pressure is on her. And I think we've tried to do that in the last from August in the preseason, now the preseason, just trying to show her, that, hey, you're going to have some pieces to help you.
And, Coach, what's been the main focal point so far in these preseason workouts as far as on-the-court performance?
Getting everybody involved in the offense. We're a different team than we were. We're Darius and Angie, Sandra and Crystal and Sid, and, those years that we won 20 and then turned around and won 26 games, and we're different. Okay, so because you had so much talent, you had Kelly Loftus out here, you had all these different pieces before Elo left us, and we had all these pieces, and then you could grind some things out. Well, now it's different. The style of play that we're doing fits our team a lot better. Having everybody involved, people play well off the ball. So I think that's been our job as a coaching staff, is trying to do a better job of coaching and coaching what we have. We go out and you try to recruit the same kind of kids. I'm pretty good about recruiting the fours that I like. I always have been lucky getting pretty good point guards, but I'm not getting an All-American in every spot. I'm not Connecticut. So, sometimes, we had a tough recruiting the last couple of years, too. Did I just die?
Nope, you can.
Okay. We had a tough recruiting, couple years, not with Marianne and P and everybody was great, but, we've had to, kind of get out there a lot. And I think this year, having everybody in and having the sophomores now being sophomores, we're in good shape.
Coach, let's dig a little bit into your your non-conference schedule. You mentioned at the podium of it being a great way to kind of build that foundation heading into conference play. So
yeah, it's a lot more challenging than it was last year. If you look at it, I mean, you have teams like St. Bonnie's who have been in the championship. You have, obviously, we open up with UMBC, and then you always play a tough, tight one with Stony Brook. That's just on a regular basis, So, and then you're going to go out into Vegas and have a slate with UNLV and a chance to play, Minnesota or Wake. We didn't have that type of schedule last year, so. With that, we're going to have a success. We're going to have some frustrations and some complications, but that's if I can continue instilling that in them, it's like this is why you're playing, to figure out how to win games against Holy Cross. Think about their history and how good they are. We're going to be challenged. We're going to be challenged with great skill set teams, very physical and athletic teams. We're going to have just a whole gambit of challenges, and it's going to be interesting to see how we respond.
Coach, now in a new off-season, who have you seen has improved the most from last season to this season, and who do you think is going to surprise people and someone that's really being overlooked right now but could become a star towards the end of the year?
I love that question because last year going in, we had the 5 freshmen. You had, Alexis Davis, athletic as I'll get at, Sandra Karsten, and you had Marianne and Anna. And I felt like Marianne and Anna's transition to the game happen a lot faster. So I'm proud of, again, we haven't played a game yet, and I want her to just keep her nose to the ground, but about how Alexis Davis, because what you do is when you actually can see separation, every day last year you want someone to separate. You want someone to start, separate from the pack. You're this good. It's not that you're belittling other people on your team. You are separating yourself from the pack. I've been watching Alexis do that. Is it every day? But there's been a good little baseline of her trying to separate herself from the pack. What does that mean? That just means playing the way she's capable of playing, and showing, the stuff that she didn't get to do last year, and it's been cute watching her talk to the freshmen when she sees their stars in their eyes a little bit, and she'll go over to me and go, I was just like that. So everybody's really big about saying things when people come in. Lexley was highly recruited. You had verbal to Georgetown, all that subscribing to the hype. I don't think she subscribed to the hype. I think everybody else was blowing her up. And then when you get down to the nitty-gritty of college basketball, her and Sandra Karsten both, the game is a lot faster. It's different, the pace of it. So I'm hoping that you're going to see a lot out of these two guys, Sandra Karsten and Alexis Davis. I just want it for them because they're so talented. They work so hard. They spend a lot of time in the gym, and obviously they're going to help the team win. The better that they play, along with the great play from Marianne and Anna. So.
Okay, head coach Krista Kilburn-Stavesky of Hofstra Pride women's basketball. Coach, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, and again, head coach Krista Kilburn-Stavesky of Hofstra Pride women's basketball with us. And that will actually be the last guest that we have here. So it gives us about 5-10 minutes to be able to talk about the guests that we've just had. Obviously, a full slate of guests. We only have about 5-10 minutes left of our broadcast here. So, Dwight, I'll start with you. Who are you more impressed with out of the players today that sat and spoke with us?
I'm really impressed with Boogie Brzezinski and also Aliana Leon. You can really see that team chemistry going on there. You see that they're very excited for the season, and we also see that they know what things they need to work on. They know what things they need to kind of get chipping at. And I think that this is the stepping stone for them this season. I think it's going to carry them throughout.
Well, I have to look over to the men's side, and I was really impressed with Justin Wright Foreman. I think that he's really looking to embrace this role he has as the leading scorer on this team, as a guy that every opposing defense is going to look to. I was really impressed with his remarks today, and he seems like he's really excited to get this season going.
Well, let's talk about first the men's basketball team. Deshore Bowie was unanimously talked about as the guy that is going to impress and surprise a lot of people this year. Obviously, last year coming off of an injury. Dwight, I'll start with you here. Do you feel their sentiment? Do you share their sentiment in that this is the guy that's going to be taking that next step like an Eli Pemberton or like a Justin Wright Foreman did last season?
I believe absolutely. This is his breakout season right here. Again, as they were saying, coming off of a very brutal injury last season has really something that's kind of not been good for him per se, but obviously coming into this season, from the sound of their teammates, it sounds like his spirits are uplifted and he's pretty much ready to get out there and get working.
And I think it's really interesting that he was, like you said, Nick, unanimously picked. I mean, it was like the first word out of everyone's mouth once we asked.
Immediately said it.
Yeah, so I think that they really must see something in practice, and he's really going to be a fun player to watch coming here, because if he can step up, then I think all of a sudden Hofstra starts to creep towards that top echelon of the CAA.
Well, let's move over to the women's side now. Do you share their sentiment as some of these younger players that could be the surprise player in this team?
Oh, Alexis Davis. We saw last season, obviously she came off the bench and now she's moving into that starting role. She was that spark plug that kind of carried the Pride, to a couple of their wins last season. And I think that if she kind of picks up where she left off last season, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They're going to be a very hard team to kind of stop early on.
Well, and I think it's interesting when you look at the amount of freshmen that they had a year ago. You're looking for progress this season. You're looking for progress out of those players who were freshmen. How much better are they going to be this year than they were last year? And I think that's what's going to make or break this women's basketball team. Not only will players like Ajane Duran and Anna Leon, the older players, but I think you're really going to have to look towards those younger players to continue to develop and continue their growth, because that is what's going to get this team up towards the top of the CAA.
It's interesting. None of you mentioned Ana Hernandez-Heel, and they were talking about it briefly. That was my pick right from the beginning. I thought she was going to take the next step and become that next go-to scorer. But very quickly before we wrap things up, and we'll answer this separately for both teams. Hofstra Pride men's basketball, 4th preseason CAA. Is that correct in terms of the preseason rankings?
I think they're right where they should be. but it's going to be a very surprising season, with guys like Desir Bowie, Justin Wright Foreman. Justin Wright Foreman is that key guy that everyone's been talking about. Justin Wright Foreman, if he goes out and he does what he needs to do, along with, those extra scoring points by Eli Pemberton, continue to have, The Rock continue to do what he does best down low, the Pride are going to put themselves in a very good position to where they'll be even seeing the top or even the second spot.
Well, I like what Joe Mahalik said. This is a very competitive conference, and it's one where, beyond, like he said, the College of Charleston, it's kind of wide open. It's anyone's conference to compete from there on in. So I think fourth is fair. It's right in the middle of the pack, and I think that's kind of where a lot of teams are in this conference. So we'll see how it continues to develop as we get closer to the season. But I don't see why this team couldn't have been ranked 2 or 3 in the conference. I think they're a very strong basketball team.
All right, Kenny, stay right here with you. Women's basketball 7th in the CAA preseason poll. Is that too low?
Yeah, I think it's too low. I think that they have a lot of weapons, especially Najee Durant, that can kind of put up some points and really be good producers for this team. I think it's low, but listen, from hearing them talk, they didn't seem too down about it. They seem pretty excited that they were picked that low. They said, hey, let's go out and prove people wrong. So I think, I don't think it's the biggest deal to them, and I think it is a little bit low, though, to be honest.
And I have to agree with you, Kenny. I think it is a bit low. There's a lot of potential in this team. When Boogie gets, gets to start playing in those games and gets, that groove going. And again, Alexis Davis and Ashane Durant, I think that when you put all the pieces together, I think that you're going to be looking at a very strong women's team. And I think, again, they're being underestimated and they're being looked as those underdogs. But they're going to prove a lot of people wrong because they have a lot of scoring machines on this team, and it's going to really surprise a lot of people.
The future is bright for both men's and women's basketball team as the season starts on November 10th when men's basketball team takes on Army to open up the 2018 season for Hofstra basketball. And that'll do it for us here inside Hofstra Basketball Media Day. Big thank you to everyone in studio who helped out. For my colorman, Dwight Spencer and Kenny Conrad, I'm Nick Ferris signing off, saying have a great day and a better tomorrow.